Hey, everybody. How are you doing on this fine Sunday evening? It's time to talk some Inter Miami. And as always, Ed's running a little late. So he'll join us in just a minute or two as he's rushing home. And hopefully he doesn't get any traffic tickets or anything. But he'll be here in just a minute. But see, it's already started. I told Franco that who's in the green room area that I would catch some hell for being a minute or two late, and I guess Uncle Ed had a bad influence on Peter with Latin time of his. I knew it. I knew I would catch even a second of hell from that, but and it's always I could count on Esteban to do that. But anyway, Ed just got in, so let's everybody say hi to everybody's favorite uncle, Uncle Ed. How you doing,
Downtown
Ed?
Peter Brown, how's it going?
Good. So I was just killing a minute while you were getting in, and I went live a minute late, and already getting a little jabbing from Esteban. But before we go too far, let's do our business, and let's say a big thank you to Caneswear. Caneswear is where you need to go to get all your Inter Miami gear. They have the new black jerseys in stock, so go there, get them. They always have great deals on their website, so go to caneswear.com if Davie, Florida is too far for you to drive. But they've always got the best prices in town, so go support a local business. And
Peter Brown, if people want to buy or sell here in South Florida, the person to talk to is Mia Rodrigues. She's the GOAT of all realtors here in South Florida, so you guys got to contact her. And she speaks 3 languages, so there's no excuse. So contact Mia Rodrigues, and you guys could be even famous because she's famous. She's got her own TV show, The American Dream. You guys can check her out, and if you want to sell your property or business, she might be the one to contact. You might become famous. So Mia Rodrigues, buy them houses or businesses.
yeah, I just found out one of my next door neighbors who just moved into the house like I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, might have to move because of a new Trump law. So he may have to move back to where is it, Virginia, because apparently if you work for the government, you can no longer work remote. And this guy does some sort of military government related work, and he works remote. And he might
Oh
so
my
somebody
God.
might need to contact Mia to buy my neighbor's house. Maybe.
Wow, that sucks. Wow, so sucks for yeah. Hey, that's kind of weird, but that's the way the world is. What can you do?
All right. So let's say hello to everybody in the chat real quick, and then let's get to Franco, who's got always lots of fun things to talk about. First off, Damien, I see, is in the queue, in the chat. One World, One Goal, who loves Caneswear. She's always buying off the website. Esteban is here, as mentioned before. Jay Vasquez, Pablo Galasso, and that's it for now. See here, look. Esteban says, "Mia, help me become Peter's neighbor." Oh my God, having Esteban
Imagine
as
that.
my neighbor. I don't know about that.
He'll be coming over all the time, Peter.
well, we could carpool to the games, right?
There you go.
All right. Well, anyways, let's not wait up here. Rick A just jumped in as well. Let's not wait anymore. We've got a lot, some fun things to talk about. The team is now either traveling or traveled to Peru. They're playing Universitario. I can't say it, but they played them before here, so they're getting ready to play them in their second preseason game. Plus, they've acquired a couple more, a couple more international roster slots. So lots of things. Lots of things. Well, I have one question that I think we could start off with by asking Franco Panizo in just a second. So let's welcome Franco on the show. Hey, Franco.
Yay.
Welcome
What's
back.
up, guys? Thank you. It's been a little bit over a year now, I think, since our last hoorah together.
Yeah. How's things going over on Miami Total Football?
It's good, man. We've done the transition to be more of a YouTube show like you guys now. We still throw the podcast on for people who like to just listen.
So do we.
But we incorporated more of the video element, which has been fun. I enjoy it. So this is good. This is good.
That's good. You guys do good stuff as always.
Thank you.
Yeah, and you know what? Go ahead, Peter.
No. Go ahead, Ed.
I was gonna say, who better to talk about Universitario than somebody that's from Peru?
Oh yeah,
you probably know all the good stuff. So, what?
It's the only reason I accepted the invitation, to be honest with you.
Well, we were talking about you Latinos not being punctual generally, specifically you, Uncle Ed, and I, on the other hand, am very punctual. So this kind of goes in line, I think, with that. Not so much the Peru thing first, but just the all these international roster slots that they're accumulating, because that's where my mind went when we just were doing the little intro, and that is, I wonder, does Inter Miami not like gringos? I mean, what's that? They don't like white, us white Americans. Americans. I don't care about if you're white or black or green or whatever, but they don't like Americans. They want all the international roster slots. I mean, it's a lot.
I mean, it's been pretty much that way since the start, almost. It's just maybe taken, things have been kicked up a notch since Messi's arrival, because there's been an influx of Argentines, which you can say is for better, for worse, whatever you want to call it. But there's definitely been a heavy introduction of Argentines, which means there's less room for the gringos and other nations. I mean, there is a Uruguay and Luis Suarez. There's a couple of Spaniards and Busquets and Alba. There's rumors of other players from other countries coming. They just signed Telasco Segovia, the Venezuelan, but by and large, it's been very Argentine. And of course, this club has been very Hispanic and Latino, true to its culture, true to the city, true to the market from the start. So yes, I mean, before, I don't know who their lawyer was, or I don't know how they went about it, but before, they would find a way to get the green cards very, very quickly.
They do get fast.
But now it seems like with all these new signings that, you need more international slots, because those green cards aren't coming in as fast as you would like if you're Inter Miami. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's Trump America.
Those things actually play in. I don't like talking politics.
I don't talk politics either.
But it is true. That is a factor. How the government runs, it definitely matters into how quickly some of these things can happen. Right?
Sure.
Like Allende, the new Argentine forward, Tadeo Allende, he was supposed to speak to us on Thursday when we had availability. He was in the press release for us. We were supposed to speak to him. And when we got to training, they're like, oh, change of plans. Tadeo can't speak because while he has his visa, it hasn't been stamped yet. So therefore, he's not eligible to talk. So we couldn't speak to him officially on Thursday. That's TBD.
Yeah, I like what Ralph is saying here. Non-Hispanic people unwanted by Inter Miami. But no, it's funny as I think of that, I think of all these international roster slots. And I was going down a little bit of a kind of memory lane a little bit, just as I'm reading up, unrelated topic, probably not the right place to talk about today, but the whole NASL MLS lawsuit and stuff. I'm reading about that, which I find super interesting as an NASL fan back in the day. But that makes me think of kind of like where MLS was and how important it was to grow the American in the game, right? That was a big part of MLS. Not as much now. And I guess the league has gotten to a point now where it's like it's more about just having the best team on the field, and it doesn't really matter where you're from, and that's fine. But you do. Part of me says, but what about the gringo? What about the Kremoskis and stuff like that? We need more of those.
Kremoskis
I know he's Argentinian, but he's a Miami kid.
He's American, but they tout him more as Argentine.
That's anyway, American as anybody else. We're all mixed.
Even though he's a U.S. men's national team. Anyway,
exactly.
Funny enough, this quick little anecdote, we jokingly in the media press box point out regularly, I wouldn't say it's an every game occurrence, but we regularly point out how many Americans are in the starting lineup when they're on the field and the Star Spangled Banners being sung. We're like, there's two guys today holding their hands. Usually Drake Callender and Julian Gressel. Maybe somebody else sneaks in there every now and then, but it's usually not a lot. So it's definitely not the majority, unless maybe it's like a U.S. Open Cup game or some throwaway match. But yeah.
And it's funny, as I was remember, Ed, recently we were having a show and there was somebody in the chat was giving us a hard time that, hey, we're focusing on nationalities when we shouldn't be focusing on nationalities. We should be focusing on just whether they're good or not. But at the end of the day, that
it's all part of the
roster slot is part of this. It's part of the league. It's part of the rules of the league. And I was trying to count today. Maybe you know the answer, Franco. How many international roster slots are we currently taking up? Because I counted on the current roster. Okay, where's my spreadsheet? I think we're using 11 if I got it right.
I haven't done my most up to date. I do it once they officially submit their roster, and then we're. I mean, it could be 11, it could be 13. It's in that range.
They just got 2 more, so they'll be up to 13 if I figured it correctly, right?
Again, once we know about when they have to submit the roster in February, and we know their designations more specifically, more updated. Maybe a guy got a green card in the offseason that just hasn't been updated. Until then, we don't know. So, but I think I think that's right in that 11 to 13 range. I think is what you're looking at right now.
What do you think, Ed?
No, man, it's crazy how many international spots we have. Every time I turn my head, there's another international spot. So, but yeah, man, there's a couple players also that that might not stick around. I mean, you mentioned one of them, one of our gringos, Gressel. Do you think he's going to stick around with all these new players?
From a depth perspective, I could see him sticking around. He's a solid player. Doesn't wow you. He's not amazing, but he's solid. Has that leadership, that know-how, jerarquía, as we like to say in Spanish. He's an MLS veteran, but
$1 million.
I mean, he also hasn't spoken to us yet. I mean, I know preseason's early, but normally he's been a go-to guy for Inter Miami since his arrival because he's very media friendly. He's willing to do it in almost any circumstance, win, lose, draw, preseason, postseason, midseason. And we haven't spoken to him yet, which to me is a sign. And maybe from the outside, you guys don't read into the things that maybe media members do with the things that we do with on the day-to-day. And I would read into that. I would say that between his salary, his fit on the team, the fact that he ran a podcast last year and shared insights into the locker room that you wouldn't get most places, I think that there's got to be some eyebrows raised at that as well. I would imagine that's the case. So there's a lot of things going against him. So is he here by the start of the regular season? I would bet no, but that's not inside information. That's just supposition from the outside, reading between the lines and all the tea leaves as we all do here from the outside.
Question here from Ralph, whose last name I'm not going to try to say. Here's a question.
Lucarella.
Okay.
Lucarella.
All right.
Lucarella.
I just butcher everybody's last name, so I'm not even going to try. Here's a question. Has the increasingly Hispanic influence on Inter Miami, hang on, that was too fast, resulted in diminished role of David Beckham in the franchise?
We definitely don't see David Beckham involved as much, right? He's not in front of the cameras as much. He's not doing as much media with us. I actually can't remember the last time we spoke to David Beckham. Probably before Messi's arrival. I don't think we've spoken to him. No, that's not true. The last time we spoke to David Beckham was after the Leagues Cup victory in Tennessee, where he and Jorge Mas did a joint little interview there with local media. That is the last time I spoke to David Beckham, but obviously for a good reason. They had just won their first trophy. So besides that, he's definitely taken a back seat ever since Messi has arrived. Jorge Mas he's always been front and center, but now even more so. Definitely the Latin influence has increased, and everything else has kind of decreased for sure.
Yeah. Do you think the relationship is still good? You think he's taking a step back for a reason, or maybe they're trying to push him out? Because we've seen that with like Chris Henderson. We kind of heard, and you probably know more than we do, that he was like pushed aside. So could that be the same thing happening with Beckham?
Mistake number one.
I don't know if you want to read the comment or you want me to just answer.
Nah, just throwing it up there. It just kind of goes along with what Ed's asking.
Okay. No, for me, I think what it really, really just boils down to is the era before Messi, David Beckham was the most famous name associated with this organization, right? So to help draw the more casual fans, not even locally, but internationally, worldwide, you got to bring David Beckham in there some way, shape, or form. Locally, he'd do his occasional interview in front of the cameras, have his occasional press conference, make his appearance, etc. Well, ever since Messi came with the brand that Messi has, which is just as big, if not bigger, than Beckham's brand, then you don't need Beckham to be front and center as much to put in those casual, butts in seats or people tuning in to your YouTube channel or your social media posts. You have that Messi brand. So I imagine, let's say Messi leaves whenever he leaves. And let's say that, yes, he's a part-time owner or not, but he's not around. And then I imagine Beckham comes back into the forefront to help, again, garner the attention from more casual people that maybe aren't soccer fans, but because of Beckham's relationship with Posh Spice, Victoria Beckham, they're more inclined to tune in or whatever the case is. I think that's a big factor into all of it.
And Beckham is still doing some publicity because when he does something, my wife shares it with me. He was recently...
See, there you go. Your wife is all over it.
Yeah, he was recently on the Today Show or Kelly Ripa, one of those morning shows. I forgot which one. And he presented the two hosts a Messi shirt, right? And a Messi shirt for each. So he was still out there shaking hands, doing things that he can do that Moss can't. Like, Esteban saying that Moss is the face of the team now and stuff like that. But while Moss may have the money, he doesn't have the clout to get himself on the Today Show. I mean, they're not going to care that some billionaire wants to. They're just not,
No one outside of South Florida and maybe Zaragoza and maybe the MLS world in general knows who Jorge Mas is. So Jorge Mas, no offense to Jorge Mas, but if he was on daily television, I don't think many people would tune in. Generally,
and his name and his money isn't enough to get him in that spot. But Beckham can get you there, right?
It's about the brand, man. It's all about the brand. It's all about people with less money than Jorge Mas have made it onto these talk shows. Just again, it's about the brand. What is nightly talk television about? It's about people. It's about characters, personajes. So I mean, Jorge Mas is a personaje, but just not to that global audience.
One World says Posh is a secret weapon. She loves Spice Girls. Oh yeah, she also is on the same wavelength as my wife. He was on the Today Show and gave a Messi shirt and promoted the new health powder drink. Okay, yeah, my wife just shared something on Instagram to me and just said, "Here, watch us." But I never pay attention to my Instagram messages because I don't ever open it. I'm just old. And so she has to go, come into the other room and say, "Hey, open your Instagram. Look, I sent you something. Pay attention."
It's
old guy.
It really, a lot of it oftentimes, and I don't know how, where you guys are just general fans are, but a lot of it just comes down to money, man. It's how can we help you move more money and how can we help us make more money? And all right, let's find a time that we can all do this together. Beckham, like it's really what it comes down to more often than not. So.
All right. Well, as always, I mentioned it before. If you want to leave a voicemail, you can do that, 786-474-4435. We have one, so let's go to it.
Hello?
Hey, everybody. It's Italian One World, One Goal. Just wanted to call and say hey to Franco. Thank you so much for all the reporting that you do all year long. Kind of a thankless task sometimes. But I know you ask the hard-hitting questions that the fans really want to know. And, of course, sometimes it makes, people a little uncomfortable. But then again, you also get to chat with them when we have our glory moments, too. So thanks for everything you do. And it's always a telenovela in South Florida soccer, that's for sure. So I'm kind of busy, a little bit in South America, a little bit in Fort Lauderdale. Diego Serna 17's partnered up and has a Division II team in Ecuador and putting some players in Europe and in Central America. And so the Mexican teams are strong, so we got to get our team stronger, that's for sure, because those people are not messing around. And they're getting a lot of good South American players, too, and some of our MLS players are going back and forth to the Mexican League. And then we have, I don't know if we're going to do it this year or next year, but we're doing a Division III in Fort Lauderdale. So that'll be really fun. So enjoy. Big hug. Peace out.
All right. Thank you, One World, One Goal. I'm not sure if there was a question in there, but she loves you, Franco, and she likes
I
that.
appreciate that.
I
appreciate the kind words. Always nice to hear her voice. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the job. I think the most famous one is the Phil Neville moment to date.
Yeah,
so,
that was great.
Listen, it's part of the job to ask uncomfortable questions, and I asked Drake Callender recently some uncomfortable questions. It's about doing it in a professional manner. It's about doing it in a personable manner, because obviously I'm not trying to go out there and insult anybody, but there are topics, there are moments, things are not all peachy and rosy, and that's what we're there for. We're not PR people, as much as maybe some people in Inter Miami would like us to be, but We're not just there to carry the narrative that they would like. So, I asked Drake Callender about his future here. Does he see himself here? There's questions as to whether that will be the case or not, but it's part of the roles and responsibilities.
So let's talk about Drake, because he gets a lot of hate, and I think unwarranted hate,
especially from your brother.
Oh my God!
My brother growing up, like, he would be a field player. We played together. He was a field player growing up, and then because he was heavier, they put him in goal. So he's very, very harsh on goalkeepers.
No kidding.
Is very critical of goalkeepers, and he likes a certain personality in goalkeepers. But that's my brother. That's aside. I mean, if you're asking me from a journalistic seat about Drake Callender, look, he can be an incredible shot stopper. He can be there. There goes Bruno. I don't hate him. Come on. He can be an incredible shot stopper, and he has won very important games or delivered in important moments for Inter Miami. There's no denying that. And I said this on my show a few weeks ago. Maybe it was before the new year, but in Inter Miami short history, Drake Callender is the best goalkeeper that Inter Miami has ever had.
He's the best goalkeeper they currently have.
Sure. But can you upgrade that position? My thought is absolutely you can upgrade that position. Does he fit the style that they want to play? No. He's not a good player with the ball at his feet. Has he gotten better in that regard? Yes, he's gotten better. He has improved, but he's nowhere near good enough with the ball at his feet still to this day. On top of that, I would say that in 2024, he regressed from where he was in 2023.
I would agree.
I don't think he was as good. He was more inconsistent. That goal, I think it was against, I can't remember if it was against the New England Revolution, where the ball goes in between his arms and his legs. That is a horrific mistake that someone of his now experience should not be making. I don't think he is good enough for what Inter Miami wants to be. Inter Miami doesn't only want to win an MLS Cup. He's good enough for that, but they also want to compete internationally at a higher level. This league has its roster rules, its roster regulations, its salary budget, but I don't think that he is good enough for what they want to be. And I think that the team does not consider him good enough for what he wants to be. When I asked him that question that I just mentioned, a couple of questions that were a bit uncomfortable, but handled in a professional manner by him. One of the key things he said is, "I'm ready for anything," which to me shows insight into his mindset that he knows he may not be here. He knows he might not fit what they're looking for. Again, it's a very Latin American locker room, right?
Yeah,
so it doesn't fit that part.
I'm sure he sees social media. I mean, the guy gets a lot of hate out there now. And now also I'm seeing, like, of course we've got a lot of fans that, don't know anything about MLS that follow us now. And they're all, I see people starting their starting lineups for the season, and they're putting what's his name? Rocco Rios Novo as the starting keeper. And he hasn't done anything yet to earn that spot. I'm not saying he can't, but
that's because they had nobody. Well, that's because they had nobody. They had nobody else for that game. Callender was injured.
Well, I get it for that game, but people are penciling him in for the season opener, right? Just based off of one game and their hatred for Drake. And that's baloney. I mean, Drake is our best goalkeeper we have now. They haven't gone out and gotten anybody better. So then, people should just shut up and enjoy the keeper that you have. He is the best one you've got.
No, I don't know if you have to shut up and not ask for more. You can absolutely ask for better. You're a fan? Absolutely. Why not? If Drake Callender's not cutting it, listen, if your striker's not scoring goals, you're going to ask for somebody better regardless of their name. Do you cheer on whoever you have in the moment because that's your team? Absolutely. But if you want something better, absolutely, why not? And that's funny that you mentioned, social media, because actually that's how I prefaced the question to Drake Callender. I asked him, I don't know how much you pay attention to social media and the outside reports during the offseason, but there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of reports linking Inter Miami with a foreign goalkeeper. What are your thoughts on that? And then we got into the overall topic.
What do you think, Ed? You're awful quiet there.
I'm sorry. I kind of lost you guys for a second.
Well, there was another person on the bench that I saw celebrating after that last preseason game, Tyler Miller. What's he doing there?
He was just there to fill in. He's on trial in theory, but he was just there as an able-bodied man. Because again, they had Callender with the injury, and Ustari had not gotten his visa or his work permit yet. So Rocco Rios Novo was the guy, and they needed a backup. Javier Mascherano told us in the week leading into that game he would not exponer, which means expose, but he would not put at risk a young player from the academy having to go in when they're not ready, and then having a potential horrendous night because they're just not ready for the moment. So Tyler Miller was just there to fill a spot. I mean, if he makes the roster, I'd be shocked, but I guess there's a chance.
Me and Ed were talking about it recently, and that I don't see, or last week, I don't see how he could make the slot. You're not going to have 4 goalkeepers, and you just signed Ustari, so you're not getting rid of him, because he would be the one you would get rid of, I would assume, or you just shoot Rocco down, because Rocco could be an up and coming keeper you might see a future with, right?
But he only has 1 year here. He only has 1 year here as of right now.
You could buy him if you like him. I mean, never stop them from throw some money at him. But anyway, or I guess they could just shoot him down to the 2 team if they really felt like it. But I was also wondering if Tyler, because he's out of contract, if he was kind of like the like MLS pool player, because that's a thing, and there used to be more of them. Now there's like 1 player per year. That's the MLS pool player, and I was just wondering if I was curious if he was that. But so I saw him celebrating at the end of the game. I was like, who is that guy?
It's probably unofficially what's happening, right? Like it's preseason, so you don't need to sign a player.
Yeah.
You don't need to sign a pool player, but it's probably what happened. Like, hey, who can come in, give you a good few workouts here so you can stay in shape for some other team, and just be on the bench in case we need you. That's probably what happened.
Franco, let's move up to the defense now. Do you think they've done enough to defense? Because that's one of the things that people talk about on social media
all
too. But okay, great, we're getting more midfielders, but what about our defense? They haven't done anything. That's really our weakness, the defense. What are your thoughts on that?
They're apparently bringing your primo Peluca into the team, bro. And if Peter doesn't know what Peluca means, Peluca means wig, which there's a Uruguayan center back that's rumored to sign with the team. He's got a big fro.
I've been looking for that fro, dude. I'm going to be wearing that fro, but, I haven't been able to find it yet.
I love the nickname. I love the fact that they call him Peluca. That is phenomenal.
That's Falcon, right?
Yes, that's Falcon.
Okay, I don't know all the Spanish nicknames. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's tremendous. It's amazing. That's probably the best one.
You got to gringo it up for me.
As for the defense in general, with his addition, have they done enough? They added Lujan, or Lujan, if you want to have the English pronunciation, who's can play center back, but I've heard he's going to be more competition for Cello at the right back spot. I think they made one more addition back there. Maybe not.
That's it. Lujan on my list of new players, Lujan and Falcon. There was some rumors of, I think, somebody else, but that's who's like signed or almost signed.
If that's it for now, is that enough? I would say
you're thin.
I would say probably not. I'd say probably not enough. But the caveat, the thought here, again, from my vantage point, is that the team is probably looking to play a back 4, not a back 5. So in that case, maybe you don't need as many center backs. You don't need as many pieces for the back line. Is it talented enough? is a backline of what they had from last year plus Falcon and Lujan. Is that going to be enough for their aspirations? I mean, it depends. This really is going to come down to the team in general. From the first game, you saw a very organized team, a team that kept its shape for the most part, a very tactically disciplined Inter Miami. Again, it's one game. There's a lot of players missing. There's more to come, but with each preseason game, with Wednesday's game being the next one in Peru, we'll get more of an idea. But if the idea is to stick with a 4-4-2, be as organized collectively as you can, then maybe you don't need a whole lot of reinforcements. Maybe the idea and el funcionamiento, which is the collective performance levels in English, maybe that is enough to compensate for the lack of overall individual talent at the back. And I imagine, again, not inside information, but I imagine just from the outside trying to read what they're doing, I imagine that that's the thought, right? The thought, because let's be honest, guys. I mean, we've watched MLS a long time. We've had these conversations for, 2 decades now. MLS teams are limited in how much they can spend, and they spend that money on the attacking side. Very rarely is the defense get that money. And guess what? Inter Miami does have a player who does earn a pretty penny in Jordi Alba, so you're not going to see another marquee name, another big-time player in the backline. You're going to have to make do with some, average to above average players. You're going to have Tomas Aviles, who you maybe Inter Miami hopes is going to take the next step, can be more consistent, can avoid the silly decisions, the red cards, the elbows, the foolishness. I mean, that's got to be what you bet on if you're building an MLS roster, because you just can't invest freely as much as Jorge Mas wants, and he's probably going to listen to this, and I know he really, really wants to invest as much as he can. And listen, I mean, I wish MLS would open up the purse strings even more for him and other owners that want to create more competitive teams internationally, but they don't want to. The league doesn't want to mess up the general structure of what it has going here nationally and with Canada. So you got to make do with what you've got. And if this is it, then you have to try to fill up for the lack of talent with a better collective showing. And I think that is the idea that Javier Mascherano is looking for.
Yeah, I've been saying that, for this entire offseason, that when people say names like Ralph saying he wants Sergio Ramos in the back, when you're saying names like that, I kept telling everybody, they're not going to sign these big, defending names, because defenders don't sell jerseys. Let's be honest. A lot of it was centered around the Neymar possibility and all that kind of stuff. And a Neymar or an attacker will sell jerseys. Attackers, like you said, sell jerseys. And at the end of the day, Mas, this is a business. He wants to sell jerseys, wants to sell tickets, wants to sell sponsorships, and defenders aren't going to do that. They may win games, but they're not going to sell.
Sergio Ramos would definitely sell jerseys if he came. But it goes back to your second point. It goes to your second point more. MLS wants, and this is something we're getting on a bigger picture here. And we don't have to spend too much time on it. But Ed will maybe understand, as he's Ecuadorian. Mm-hmm. Across soccer, and in almost any league, most leagues, teams are balanced, right? Yeah, you might have a star player here, but they're fairly balanced. Right? You can have your teams that are weaker defensively, your teams that are weaker offensively, but generally there's a balance in the roster. In MLS, there is no balance. The reason for that is because, and this goes back to what we were talking in the green room about different cultures,
mm-hmm.
MLS does not want 0-0 games. They do not want 1-0 games. They don't want a soccer game because they don't think that the general audience is going to consume that and be like, wow, that was entertaining. They want goals. They want 5-4s. They want 4-3s. They want big goals, big moments, stoppage time. That's why all the money goes to the attack and very little of it goes to the backline. That's why you see in the MLS drafts, which is still a thing, a lot of defenders are chosen, and some of those defenders end up contributing to first teams. And more often than not, the offensive players, the attacking players fall by the wayside. Every now and then there are exceptions to the rule. This is not a one-size-fits-all. It's not an umbrella term. But every now and then you'll get an attacking player that contributes and does this thing. Orlando has had a couple of them. But by and large, defensively, that's where you bolster your roster in the draft because they're cheap and they'll just make do with what you've got. This league is about being offensive, being attack-minded, scoring goals, entertaining you with that because they don't think that the general audience is going to appreciate or understand or enjoy a tight 1-0 affair.
And they're probably right, because how many times have you heard from an American generally that they'll say something to the effect that soccer's boring because 1-0. Who could enjoy a 0-0 game? What do you mean a draw with who ends in a tie? You hear that kind of stuff regularly. So they're not wrong in their line of thinking. So, and at the end of the day, as we're talking about our defense being bad and are we better, blah 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 blah, we broke the record last year in points. So even if we're only just a notch better, it may be enough. I mean, look, if they didn't run into Atlanta, they probably would have made it. If they didn't run into, Guzan, because it really was Guzan who beat us or stopped us from winning. If we hadn't run into them and him, we may have gone further in the playoffs. I don't know if we would have won it all or not, but we would have probably gone further. We would have probably made it out of the first round at least. So it's like the defense, while, and actually our guest last week, Daniel from Battered Herons, he was bringing up some stats saying that our defense really wasn't that bad statistically speaking. But I don't know if you would agree with that, Franco, or not, but I know with the eye test, it sure didn't feel good a lot of games. Like it felt like we were under a lot of undue pressure that we hope we're in better situation. And some of that's the midfield.
So what I would say to that, and we can kind of tie it into this here, we don't have to do a whole,
go as long as you want.
Last year. Hey, if you guys want to talk for a while, I'm good with that. I like talking, especially football. I think last year's team, and this is something I've talked about on my podcast with my co-host as well, we've gone in depth on it. Last year's team, the initial propuesta, the initial idea from Tata Martino was to lean into the attack, because that is where Inter Miami is deepest, most talented. That's where the most quality is. So Inter Miami necessarily, while they of course want to be as tight and compact defensively as they can be, their idea initially was, we can give up 3 goals, but we're going to score 5. Like that was the initial idea when the year started. And then as things went along, as the games happened, and as Inter Miami got exposed more defensively because they didn't have the talent or the organization or the quality or the coaching or whatever you want to put it, they changed. And when Messi left for the Copa America in June and July, Inter Miami changed its way of playing. And they were starting to sneak games out 1-0, 2-1. It wasn't this mind-blowing offensive attacking onslaught that we saw at the beginning of the year. The idea wasn't the same. We saw more of the back 5. You want to call it a back 3, you can call it a back 3, but it's a back 5. And you really saw that from Inter Miami. Then when Messi came back after his injury post-Copa America, which he missed a good bit of time, it was like the team forgot how to play with him. Like Tata Martino couldn't find a way to get this team that was now playing a little more defensively, how to incorporate Messi to be more attack-minded, but to keep that's where they lost their way at the end of last season. And then in the playoffs, you saw it, because Messi and Suarez, they put in some work. I'm not going to say they put in no work to try to win the ball back, but they usually do so in the high press. Once a team gets out of that and they start building through their lines, and Inter Miami has to retroceder, which is retreat and get into shape, it was Inter Miami defending with 8 field players and Messi and Suarez up top just waiting for Inter Miami to win the ball back. And it just wasn't enough. The defense just didn't have enough in terms of the shape, the organization, the overall quality. You talked about Brad Guzan also being lights out on the other end. The perfect storm happened for Inter Miami to get eliminated in that series. Did I lose you guys? Are you guys still here, or am I just by myself?
I just put you up by yourself. But
okay. I was like, wait, am I still talking? Am I talking to nobody?
Oh, darn it. I'm pushing buttons. I'm just pushing buttons.
Okay.
Wrong button. Yeah. That was the wrong button.
Football. Yes, so I think they lost their way. And I think this year, Mascherano's main job will be to find a better balance, right? Because football teams, they talk about balance all the time. Your coach is talking about el equilibrio, which is balance. You want to be attack-minded, but you also want to be defensively stout. So there's got to be an in-between. Even the most attack-minded teams have a decent defense, or try to have a decent defense, and even the most defensive teams, some type of offense. You can't just be completely one or the other, because more often than not, you're not going to succeed. I mean, you can. There's been, again, rules, exceptions to the rules, but more often than not, you need to be as balanced as you possibly can. I think that's what Inter Miami will gun for this year.
Franco, let's move on to the forwards and the midfield. I mean, before we talk about Universitario, because I want to hear what you have to say about that game. What are your thoughts? I mean, do we have enough players so far, or do you think we're going to get a DP, or are they going to go the other way with the youth? Well, how was that rule, Peter, that they call the
It's well, I mean, you have to
the U22 initiative,
right. You can have what 3 U22s or 4.
4.
We're going with a 4, 2 DPs and 4, and then you get also $2 million in GAM available, and they're spending that to get more international slots.
So there's two different things, two different talking points there. I'll go on Ed because it's been quiet, and I don't want to ignore Ed any further. The midfield is interesting because it ties into the last talking point. That's where I wanted to kind of bridge the two topics. If you're going to play a 4-4-2, which early accounts seems what Mascherano's idea is, just based on that first game as well as the things he said in the interviews that we've done. If you're going to play a 4-4-2, right, and you want to focus on being as structurally and as organized and disciplined tactically as you can be, yeah, your back four is going to have to be very good. It's going to have to be tight. It's going to have to, individual players have to also deliver in their individual battles. But you also need that midfield four to protect you. You need them to help blanket the attacks. And I think, again, sample size is small. It's early in preseason. But what I saw in that game against Club America, which also of note is a different type of opponent, different level of opponent in most Major League Soccer teams. But what I saw in that game left me concerned because I do not think that Sergio Busquets and Federico Redondo can be your two, in English we say sixes, depending on where you are in Latin America, puede ser cincos, which is fives. So whatever number you want to put on the position, point blank, I don't think they can be your two central midfielders if you need some defensive muscle. I think at some point, Yannick Bright is going to have to be the starter if this is the idea that they stick with, because you need someone that can recover the ball, that can break up things a little bit more. There just simply was not enough resistance in certain moments against Club America. There were still moments where Club America just carved Inter Miami's defense up way too easily, and those central midfield duo, and you really can't blame the players. It's not Busquets' forte. He's never been a defensive monster, and Federico Redondo's just not that type of player. So you can't blame the players for not being what they aren't. And I think that that's where this team is going to either do or die. This is where they're going to have success because we know Messi and Suarez are going to score goals.
Yep.
The back line is the back line. It is what it is. How that midfield can protect them will go a long way. Because I think you highlighted a comment from Sean Callahan earlier and said there were structural problems. And I agree with that. I do agree with that. I think that if you have a back line that is not as talented as your front line, then you have to help cover the holes, cover the weaknesses. But I don't think you can do that with the personnel you threw out in that first game. I don't think Redondo and Busquets can be the pair. You need Bright in there. Or unless you're going to go sign a different defensive midfielder or go trade for a different defensive midfielder, you need a little more muscle. You need more with a little more defensive qualities if you want to play this way. But see, that's where it gets interesting for Inter Miami because they want to be more organized this year, but they still want to be this possession-based team that's clean with the ball coming out of the back. But Yannick Bright isn't that. So that's where you got to find the balance yet again. This is where they're going to have to find and fine-tune and tinker and adjust and see what formula gives them the best recipe for results and performance levels. But I don't think that the two in the midfield can be Busquets and Redondo. If they want to go where they want to be this year, I just don't think they give you enough.
Couple comments in the chat about midfield. Francisco Garcia says the midfield is not better than last year's. Rojas and Gomez are better than any combination of Fafa, Allende, and Segovia. And then also Jay Vasquez saying Redondo is not the answer for this team as structured. I don't think he's ready to start. I take Bright over Redondo as well. I agree with what you were saying, Franco. But Francisco saying I think it's too early to say Allende and Segovia and Fafa since they haven't played together, and we haven't seen Allende or Segovia play, and so with this team, so I think it's a little early to say they're not better than Rojas and Gomez, but
Gomez leaves a high bar. I guess let's not make any confusion about that. He's a Premier League player. He was a player that was playing so good in Major League Soccer plus his national team that Premier League came and bought him. So that's those are big shoes to fill. Now, a lot of what he did was, he did contribute to the attack, but a lot of it was his ability to get stuck in, to provide some work rate. He was the little engine that could out there. He just would not stop running, would not stop battling. They need somebody like that this year. Segovia, I don't think is that player. I think he's more of an attack-minded player. Tadeo Allende is not that type of player. Again, I think it's going to come down to structurally, as a unit, can they do it? Because I don't think you have a player like Gomez on the
But they feel strong about Segovia signing him to 2029. That's a long contract. That's a risky contract. If you're saddled with a long contract if he doesn't pan out.
They gave him a good deal. They're clearly high on him, but I think it's more so for the potential promise on the attacking side. Right. I don't think it's on the defense. Again, and that's just the Major League Soccer way.
Sure.
Whether we agree or disagree, that's just the Major League Soccer way.
All right. Well, let's move on to Universitario. You're from Peru, I know, but I don't know if this is your team, Universitario, or what's your team in Peru?
So I was born here, so I don't really have like a team. Like, oh man, I live and breathe this team. But from family lineage, yes, Universitario would be the team. My dad was a fan of Universitario. It's usually when you're in Peru, there are other teams, there are fans of other teams. So before some Peruvian listens to this, takes this clip and posts it and says that I said this, there are more than just two teams in Peru, but historically speaking, the two biggest teams are Universitario and Alianza Lima. Sporting Cristal in the last couple of decades has entered the fray and gotten in the discussion, but historically speaking, it's Universitario and Alianza Lima. Family-wise, yes, Universitario is my family's team, although some of the family like Sport Boys, which is a smaller team in a smaller town in Lima, or smaller area in Lima. But yes, it's Universitario. Inter Miami plays them on Wednesday. Second time they will play in this franchise's history. They played in 2022, if I'm not mistaken. I
think so.
Phil Neville was still the head coach at that time. Inter Miami won 4.
I was there.
Inter Miami won 4-0. Ian Frey had a very good game with a very good goal. Harvey Neville also scored in that match. I think Ethan Harden who's the academy player, scored the last goal. And the first goal was an own goal from Universitario. It was a rainy night, preseason game. I was there. Mm-hmm. I will say this, and it's not because I'm Peruvian and I'm not trying to drum up interest in Wednesday's game any more than it already has. The game that Universitario played against Inter Miami a few years ago like the 4-0 scoreline was not indicative of what that game was. Universitario had some very good opportunities in that first half to take the lead, and they just didn't. And they could have equalized, and they didn't. They failed to take their chances, which, again, that's not Inter Miami's problem, but that game was not a 4-0 game. That game ends up, the own goal happens, which was a bit of fluke. Ian Frey's goal was great, and it was 2-0 before halftime. Second half, and this is, you can fact check this, second half, this was a big talking point after the game. Inter Miami makes wholesale changes to the team, and Universitario had like 3 or 4 players on the bench. So you had a very fresh team going against tired preseason legs, and then Inter Miami was just, depth-wise was just much better, more in shape, and they just crushed the Universitario in that second half. But the first half was pretty even, and I imagine that Wednesday's game will be a tight one, at least in the first half, because Universitario is a technical team. I don't think they're going to beat Leo Messi, Luis Suarez, Inter Miami, but I do think that they will put up a decent fight, at least in the first half. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes, but I would expect the first half to be entertaining.
How long do you think Messi plays?
He played 60-ish against Club America. Yeah, maybe 60-ish again.
I was going to say, any players on Universitario that they need to look out for?
I mean, if you go by the names, right? The names, which are more what people will be familiar with, if at all. I mean, they have El Oreja, the big ears. Oreja Flores, this is his nickname. I am not insulting him. This is his nickname. El Oreja Flores, who scored a lot of goals for the Peruvian national team, was a key part in helping them get to the World Cup in 2018. You have Aldo Corso, who's also a national team player who plays in the back. Andy Polo, who played in MLS, left on some not so great terms with the Portland Timbers, but he has been a big part of their recent success as well. So those are probably 3 of the bigger names on that roster. But again, it's going to come down to a collective showing. It's about the collective outing. It's not like one guy's going to put the team on his back and outshine Inter Miami with Messi, Busquets, Suarez, Alba on the field, right? So it's more about the collective. But those, if you want some names to keep an eye on, those are probably like some of the guys.
All right,
What's your prediction for the game, man?
Now I'm going to use the sound thing for the right reason. So, Bruno, thank you for the $1 super chat, Bruno. And his comment is, this Panizo guy talks too much.
I will say prediction for guys that's asking. Inter Miami wins. 3-1. I mean, look, for Peru, like the buzz right now is that this is probably Lionel Messi's final stop in his career in Peru. Like they've already played their qualifier in this World Cup cycle. And there's just no other game left on the schedule that says, hey, Messi's coming to Peru. So this game is being treated as such. There's, exorbitant prices by Peru standards for tickets, which, South Florida can relate to.
That's a big stadium too, isn't it?
It is a big stadium. This is something that is this information. This is going to be the case across the entire preseason because these teams, these cities, these countries are getting excited for Inter Miami's arrival, but it's not like it's going to be a full-on few days in Peru and they're going to make media appearances and you're going to get a chance to go behind the scenes or see Messi for a lot. Like they're literally flying on Tuesday, day before the game, match day -1, as it's called, behind the scenes. They spend the night at a hotel. Wednesday, game day. As soon as the game's over, they do what they got to do. They are on a charter flight back to South Florida Wednesday night. So they are spending very little time in Peru. They're spending very little time in all of these countries. The same. It was the same for Las Vegas. They went the day before. They played on Saturday, and then they had a charter back, red eye. So it's not like you're going to see Messi walking the streets of Peru with his mate and going to have un pollo a la brasa, una causa, un ceviche, un lomo saltado. You're not going to see that. So Peru's really buzzing as most of these Latin American cities are for Messi's arrival. But it's mostly just going to be about the game and how the team performs because there's not going to be a whole lot of outside. At least planned. It's not going to be a lot of outside noise or a lot of outside events to drum up interest.
Rick A asks, how much do you think the altitude is going to influence the match?
There's no altitude in Lima, my friend. Come on, man.
I don't know. Maybe he's like me. He doesn't know either. I don't know.
It's right next to it. I mean, maybe he's confusing it with Quito. Maybe he's confusing with Ed's territory. But, I went to Ecuador last September, by the way, Ed. Had a good time.
Oh, it's a good place, man. Good times. I've been to Peru too, so it's awesome over there too.
So come in Puerto Rico. You eat very, very good in Peru. I took my girlfriend in November, and I mean she likes Peruvian food already, but when we went there, she was like, "Wow, this is amazing! Like it is very good. You can eat very, very, very well. You're gonna need some suggestions if you don't know Peruvian plates, but it's delicious. You'll gain some pounds for sure."
I've been there, man. I know what you're talking about. I went to Callao, I think.
Callao, right, yes. That's where my family's from. So, Chimpum, Callao.
Awesome time, man. Awesome time when I was there. But, all right, man. So, Inter Miami wins. I'm thinking the same thing, Peter Brown. 3-1 Inter Miami over Universitario on Wednesday. What about you?
Yeah, it sounds, don't we always say 3-1 on this show?
I think it's our favorite number.
Don't we always? I don't know. I mean, look, Universitario wasn't very good when we played them last time. So I'm going by I've only seen them play once, ever. I don't know anything about Peru other than they have ceviche and, and what, Machu Picchu? Isn't that there too? Or is that even a... Yeah. See, that's all I know about Peru.
Actually, funny enough, they just unveiled, you can Google this, I don't know the name of this damn movie. There was a movie that came out in the last year or two, I think it was the last year, of this little teddy bear that went to Machu Picchu or went to Peru to go find his lost aunt or this lost caretaker.
Paddington Bear?
Yes, they just put Paddington Bear literally a few days ago. They just like unveiled a statue on a bench outside of Machu Picchu, and he's just like sitting there. Paddington, 100%. See, you knew that. You knew that. See, they're attracting the gringos with this Paddington the Bear statue. You see,
I know family-related things that could be Disney adjacent type of thing. It's not a Disney thing, but it is in that same kind of vein of family films. I know too much about that. I don't know anything about Peru other than that.
That's how they get you there. That's how they. Wow, there's that Paddington the Bear thing in that city in Peru, in Cusco or something. Let's go there. See, money moves everything, my friend.
And when it comes to Disney, I mean, there's a reason they make a movie that centers around Colombia, for example, and don't worry, it won't be long before they make one centering around Brazil, because bringing people into the parks from those countries.
I will say this to Rick A, to his credit, to be fair to him, because he asked about the altitude. Machu Picchu, which is probably the most famous thing known in Peru besides the food, is of course at altitude, right? That is a part of Peru where it's high up, and you do feel the effects of that. Lima itself, coastal city. Not much altitude there, but
Rick came back and saying he's from Ecuador, so definitely not confusing it. I thought Lima was higher in altitude, so get off my back. Yes.
Lima no.
He says he sees that now. My bad.
All good.
Bruno's correct saying Rio. That wasn't a Disney movie, but it is now. It is now since Disney bought Fox. But it was not a Disney movie when it was made, and that so I don't know if that really counts. Oh yeah, look, Sean bringing up that there was Emperor's New Groove, which just centers around Peru. Yeah, there you go.
Isn't the llama or whatever called Cusco or something? I think
Cusco. I think it's Cusco. Cusco.
I think it's Cusco, which is the name of the city where Machu Picchu resides in. So there you go.
Yeah.
We're brushing up on our Peruvian history here.
I mean, if it's Disney related, I can get there. I don't understand this comment, but that's why I'm putting it up here, and we can finish on this and let Franco promote. Best recipe for guinea pig?
Cuy, as Uncle Ed just said.
Is this a Peruvian dish?
They eat it in Ecuador too.
It is. I won't say it's like a Peruvian dish, but it's known because of Machu Picchu. So like on the indigenous side, right, in the Andes Mountains, which goes all over a lot of South America, cuy is a delicatessen, which is, it's a guinea pig, and you get it oven roasted. When I went to Machu Picchu, the only time I've been to Machu Picchu in my life in 2016, I tried it. It's not something I wanted to try in terms of like, ooh, that sounds so delicious, but I tried it just because I'm there, for the experience. We told and this is very common. We told the waitress, hey, we're gonna order cuy, but do not bring the head. Don't bring the head out. It's like, because they present it to you like this, like it's just the body like this. I'm like, don't bring the head. Leave the head in the back. Yeah. What do? And they do this more often than not. They will bring you the head on the plate, just like looking like that.
Because they think they're funny.
So I ate it. It was like a gamier chicken. It wasn't my favorite. Do you eat that in Lima? I'm sure you can find it, but it's not a traditional Peruvian dish. It's more like something you.
It's an Andes thing.
Have you ever had it, Ed?
I've had it. I think it's pretty good. Depends on how you make it. I thought it was pretty good. But it's something that they have like southern Colombia all the way down to northern Chile. They all eat it. So
Bolivia, Ecuador. I mean, there's a lot of.
I'll try it. I mean, I'd try anything. Especially when you're in another country.
All you have to do is go to pet supermarket, buy a little guinea pig.
I'm not doing that. I'm not cooking it myself. I'm not doing that.
The wildest part was I went to like the sightseeing after we did the Machu Picchu. The next day we did sightseeing, my buddy and I. And we went to like a little like outdoor area, and they had like a farm of these little guinea pigs, and they were like so cute and adorable, like running around everywhere. And I was like, "Damn, your future is bleak," because you guys are just being made to cook. So
hope you can run fast, guys.
Bruno, Franco, you need to. I almost said Bruno. You got to take your girlfriend and eat some guinea pig then.
I do have to take her. She's not been to Machu Picchu. There's actually. I don't know if it's too late for viewers here of the podcast or Inter Miami fans in general. There is a new airline that is coming out of Miami that goes to Peru. It's like a Spirit Airlines type of thing. I think it's called Sky Peru. They just started having flights out of Miami International, as I think last year. So the flights are pretty cheap to go to Peru. So if you want to go have some good food, go watch Inter Miami play Universitario. Sky Peru is probably the way to go. It's what we took when we went to Peru. Actually, we went to Peru and then we went to Argentina to see Messi's final game of 2024, which I did not think would be in Argentina. I thought it would be here. But nonetheless, so we took Sky Peru to Lima. It was cheap. Yes, it's again like Spirit. So, you can have a carry-on. If you have a luggage, then they're going to charge you for it, all that good stuff. But the flight was smooth. We got there and we had a good time. So Sky Peru is the way to go if you're trying to make it over to Peru, either in the short-term future or longer term probably. But yeah, it's one option for you guys.
All right, awesome. Well, sounds good. Thanks so much for doing this, Franco. It's always fun having you on. You make it easy for us because we just throw out a simple question and let you go and it makes it.
Yeah, I love talking football, man. I love talking football.
It's good.
This is a football. I mean, we could talk some NWO if you want. We could talk. We could talk about.
Well, that's funny. Where was that comment?
Somebody mentioned.
There was one way back. A little bit. It was just a very short little thing. Here we go.
What do you put NWA?
Mike V says DX is greater than NWO.
Oh, I saw that comment. And look, I'm not into wrestling anymore. I haven't been into wrestling in like 20 years.
I don't even know what DX is.
What, Peter? Come on. But that will go to my point,
man.
Yeah. Come on, man. Yes, come on, suck it. Come on,
man.
Peter,
my time is Hulk Hogan, Rowdy Randy Piper, Macho Man. Back when they were doing the cartoon. I mean, that's my time.
Yeah. So you phased out right before the peak, which is right after that.
I guess. Well, I did see actually while he was still a good guy, but was it NWO or I don't know. But anyways, I saw Hulk Hogan in a cage match at like the Miami Arena years and years ago, like early 90s or something like that, or late 80s maybe.
He's probably still a good guy. If he was wearing yellow and red, he's still a good guy.
Yeah, I think he was. I'm not sure. It was a long time ago.
Yeah. No, so I went down a rabbit hole. I was telling Peter this, Uncle Ed, because apparently you were a wrestling guy or were a wrestling guy. I'm not a wrestling guy anymore, but I've gone down a rabbit hole thanks to Twitter as of late, which I've been like just nerding out on prime wrestling times from 20 years ago, which is when I used to watch when the NWO existed and when D-Generation X existed, Peter. Now, those two are the D groups. Those are the two groups that are the best groups of all time, relatively speaking. That's the general consensus. Which one's better? It's all a matter of opinion. But I'll go with NWO. I like both of them growing up. They both have.
Come on, Dusty Rhodes, the old Florida, wrestling. I grew up on NWO. That with what was that host? The host of it, I forgot his name.
Jim Ross.
No, it was a local Miami, South Florida. He did like the from like Georgia and down to Florida. There was a when WWF was there was another, a lot of these wrestlers, I don't even know what any of that stuff means, but a lot of wrestlers, you had Dusty Rhodes, you had all these guys, and they did WWF, but they also did like your local, more, regional stuff. And I don't know.
Regional promotions.
Yeah.
NWO and DX were both absolutely, for me, the top two. It's very close neck and neck. I would go NWO for the reason of Peter. More people know who was in the NWO. Not as many people know, the general consensus, the general fan knows who's in DX. You can say Triple H, but would you be able to name anybody else besides maybe Shawn Michaels in China? Probably don't know a lot of the other three. I know them, but not your. Ed, can you name the other three in DX? The other three members of DX?
It was Nash.
No, DX, not NWO. DX.
Oh, I was thinking NWO. Who was the other guy? Oh yeah, that little. You mentioned one of the Pac guy, right?
X-Pac was in there, Badass Billy Gunn, and Road Dogg Jesse James. But see, that's why DX was great, and they were amazing. They had a lot of pop culture influence. But NWO was full of main eventers. Main eventers. Hogan, Nash, Hall. They brought Macho Man at some point. There was a point where it got so bloated, and there was too many NWO members, and it was just holy shit. But no, the original 3 is the faction in wrestling history for sure.
See, when I saw the DX thing, I thought he was talking about a rapper, like Run DX or something. Like
You've never heard Suck It, bro? You didn't hear Suck It growing up? You didn't hear people
wasn't there a rapper named DX?
Yeah, I think so.
DMX, man.
Yeah, see, there you go. Close enough.
Come on, guys. Come on, y'all. I mean, listen, I'm getting older now. I'm inching my way towards 40, unbelievably so. But you guys got to stay as relevant and as fresh and young and hip as possible.
We try. We
got
try.
to.
I'm inching my way closer to 60.
Peluca.
There you go. Thank you, Eric. DMX.
Because we've seen him since he was. I think you were a student back in the Strikers days, right?
Yeah,
or was your brother that was a student?
I was a student. I was going to FAU. I was doing stuff for Ibis, but I was still studying. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and I remember you from back in the day. And we always used to meet up with you, and we talked. The soccer thing was the whole thing about us, and to see you become what you've become, man, is awesome. And talking soccer with you is the best, man. So I'm happy for you and for everything you do. And please tell everybody where they can go to see all your stuff.
Here we go. At Franco Panizo on Twitter or X, and then Miami Total Futbol. We have a YouTube channel where we upload the weekly content, the interviews, the podcast, the video podcast now. Inter Miami content. A lot of different types of Inter Miami content. Not necessarily the type of Inter Miami content you guys produce. So don't anyone think that we're competing against one another. Completely different type of coverage and type of channel, but it's free. So anybody can subscribe there. We have the social media channels. We have Facebook, Instagram, the Twitter, but mostly at Franco Panizo is where I do my stuff, my takes, my coverage of the team. And if you're looking for more video presentation, then at Miami Total Futbol's YouTube. You can just type in Miami Total Futbol into YouTube. It'll take you there, but I think it's officially at MIA Total Futbol. But anyway.
Yeah, and there's plenty of room in this space for all the different creators and stuff like that. Everybody has a different angle on everything. Me and Ed may talk a little more nonsense. You guys are a little more analytical, I'm sure, but
we don't do construction videos. I'll tell you that much. We don't do construction videos. We leave that to you. That's your wheelhouse, so we'll leave it
I
to
did
you guys.
one today, guys, so expect something
there you go.
in the next couple of days. I got to edit it, so there's a
it's
lot.
coming.
What do we see? Give us a teaser, Ed. What are we seeing? What are we going to see in there? Any updates?
Man,
Come on, give me something.
Concrete.
It's starting to move.
Wood.
It's definitely starting to move right now. We're going to have to probably do one every week, Peter, because 2 weeks ago is when we did it, and dude, the thing almost seems to be up now.
And we actually have one of our viewers on those videos is a crane operator. So you need to reach out to him, Ed.
He's got last time we had one of the guys in the construction site. I don't know if he was the lead guy, but he gave us a tour in the in one of the carts, the golf carts. That was fun. So hopefully,
it was easier back then too because it's more compact and you can get close. And so when I would walk around every single weekend, every Saturday morning, I would walk around. They knew me. And so eventually in that 1 week, luckily you were with me, Ed, that 1 week. And so we got the ride, but they knew me. They knew I wasn't going to go too far. I knew my, and that's when, Tubby gave me a tour as well. I wasn't allowed to video that one, but he gave me a nice little tour.
Is that Paul McDonough that we're referring to there?
Yes.
I remember your references. I know I'm not his favorite, but again, it goes back to the beginning. Got to ask.
Yeah. But that was cool for me one day because he literally is pulled out and then he stops. He sees me and he rolls down his window and I just said, yeah, hi, I'm Peter Brown. He goes, I know who you are. And he's like, you want a tour? Put away your camera. I said, done.
Okay.
Let's go.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
I'm curious to see how Mascherano handles the media this year. Very curious. He's pretty fresh from still being a player. He's only coached younger players where, it's not as much pressure as, the day-to-day of a team, especially a team with Messi. Early days, it's preseason, so it's all pretty positive right now. It's light. But I'm curious to see how he handles it as a young head coach, an experienced head coach, when the tougher questions, I'm not saying me specifically, but when tougher questions are asked of him after a loss or after bad moments or controversial moments, I'm curious to see how he handles it. Because Tata Martino, and I will say this before we wrap up, Tata Martino was absolute class in terms of how he handled us, the media, last year. He responded to almost everything we asked him, even if it was controversial. He did it in a professional manner. Never really lost his cool, even if at times you could see that he was a little bit flustered or bothered. Never really lost his cool. And I think you guys, if you went and saw I don't know if you guys do this or not, but or your viewers do this, but if you go back and watch his end of season press conference where he says goodbye, that he's stepping down, most of the questions that were asked of him by the media, every question or almost every question was prefaced with a "thank you very much," "we'll miss you" type of thing. Which, sometimes I think it's a little too much if you're like, "Oh, we're gonna But the fact that he got this type of appreciation is because he was a dream to work with in terms of a media perspective. Let's see how Mascherano does, because Mascherano is complete opposite inexperienced as opposed to Grizzlies season veteran in it all.
And I was concerned about that. So, we'll as far as his experience, we'll definitely have to have you on in a couple months or whatever. And because you've been critical of coaches in the past, I don't remember how you felt about Tata the whole time, but I know how you felt about Neville, and when we had you on in the past. So, it'll be interesting to hear what your take is on Mascherano after a few months. I mean, you got to give him a little bit of time. So it'll be interesting to hear your take. And so, and as we mentioned before, you can hear his take on Miami Total Football and at Franco Panizo on Twitter. So
Miami Total Football Radio. As I like
there you go.
Well, you got to roll the R's though. I know Uncle Ed's done it. Peter probably can't do it.
I can do a little bit.
Let's see it. Come on.
Okay, all right. Let's take it. So I can't do it like in a sentence, just like go. But if I just concentrate on one word, I could do it, right? But
okay, all right. Hey, that's
I can't let it just free flow, but I could concentrate on it. Better than my wife, who's from Brazil, who can't do it, who can't roll her R's at all. I don't know.
Fala portugués.
Pouquinho. Anyways, thanks so much, Franco, for joining us. Thanks everybody else in the chat. You guys were awesome. We went long tonight because Franco was so good. So thanks everybody, and we will see you next week.